Beneath the shifting sands of the Giza Plateau, where the Great Pyramid stands as a testament to impossible precision, lies a question that has haunted archaeologists and historians for centuries. How did a civilization, emerging from the Nile's marshy deltas, suddenly possess knowledge that rivals our modern understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering? The megalithic blocks quarried from sites hundreds of miles away, fitted together with tolerances measured in millimeters, the perfect astronomical alignments, the sophisticated understanding of pi, the golden ratio and advanced geometry encoded in stone. Tonight we trace the threads of evidence that point to a source of knowledge far older and more mysterious than the pharaohs themselves, a wellspring of wisdom that may have shaped not just Egypt, but the foundations of human civilization. The answer lies not in the tombs we've opened, but in the chambers we've yet to find. CTA at 20 seconds. If you're drawn to the mysteries that live between what we know and what we've forgotten, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, comment below. Where are you from and what time are you watching? I love seeing our global community of truth seekers light up around the world. Act Y. The Impossible Foundation. Chapter 1. The Anomaly of Sudden Sophistication. In the pre-dawn silence of the Egyptian desert, when the first light touches the weathered face of the Great Pyramid, one cannot help but confront an impossibility. Here stands a monument that by all conventional understanding should not exist. Not in this form, not with this precision, and certainly not emerging from a civilization that, mere centuries before, was fashioning simple mud brick structures along the fertile banks of the Nile. The timeline troubles even the most orthodox historians, though few admit it openly. Around 3100 BCE, during what scholars call the early dynastic period, something extraordinary occurred in the land that would become Egypt. Within the span of a few generations, a heartbeat in archaeological terms, a collection of Neolithic farming communities transformed into a civilization capable of architectural feats that would challenge modern engineering. Consider the sheer audacity of the Great Pyramid's construction. Rising to an original height of 481 feet, its base covers 13 acres with such geometric perfection that its orientation to true north deviates by only 3/60ths of a degree. The mathematical sophistication embedded within its dimensions rivals anything achieved in the ancient world. The ratio of its perimeter to its height yields pi to several decimal places, yet this was supposedly built by a civilization that had only recently discovered the wheel. But mathematics was only one thread in this tapestry of impossibilities. The pyramid's construction required the quarrying, transportation, and precise placement of over 2 million stone blocks, many weighing between 2 and 15 tons, with some reaching an astounding 80 tons. The closest quarries lay 500 miles to the south, raising questions about logistics that have never been satisfactorily answered. Modern engineers, armed with computer modeling and decades of construction experience, have attempted to recreate the pyramid's building process. Their conclusions are sobering. To complete such a structure within the 20-year reign of Pharaoh Khufu would require placing one block every 2 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 2 decades straight. This assumes perfect weather, no accidents, no delays, and a level of organizational efficiency that would be remarkable even by contemporary standards. Yet the Great Pyramid is merely the most famous example of this sudden technological flowering. The precision found at Giza echoes across Egypt's ancient landscape. At Saqqara, the step pyramid of Djoser displays mastery of stone cutting that produces joints so tight a knife blade cannot be inserted between them. At Abydos, the temple walls contain hieroglyphic carvings of such delicate precision they appear to have been laser-etched rather than chiseled by hand. The anomaly becomes even more pronounced when we examine what came before. Archaeological evidence from pre-dynastic Egypt shows a gradual development of pottery, agriculture, and simple tools, the expected progression of a Neolithic society. Then, almost overnight in historical terms, we find evidence of advanced metallurgy, sophisticated astronomy, complex mathematics, and architectural techniques that wouldn't be matched again for millennia. This is not how civilizations typically develop. The accepted model of human progress suggests incremental advancement, with each generation building upon the knowledge of the previous one. Technologies emerge through trial and error, refinement through necessity, and gradual sophistication through accumulated experience. Yet Egypt appears to have skipped several steps in this process, leaping from primitive to advanced with no clear transitional phase. Contrast this with other ancient civilizations, and the Egyptian anomaly becomes even more striking. Mesopotamia, often cited as the cradle of civilization, shows a clear developmental progression spanning centuries. From the earliest settlements of Uruk to the sophisticated city-states of Babylon, we can trace the gradual evolution of writing, architecture, and social organization. Each innovation builds logically upon previous achievements. Similarly, the civilizations of the Indus Valley, despite their own mysteries, show archaeological evidence of steady development. Their urban planning and engineering marvels at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro represent the culmination of centuries of experimentation and refinement, not sudden appearances of fully formed techniques. Egypt's trajectory stands apart. The sophistication of its earliest dynasties far exceeds what their immediate predecessors should have been capable of achieving. It's as if the civilization inherited a pre-existing knowledge base, rather than developing one organically. This inheritance theory gains credence when we examine Egyptian texts themselves. The ancient historians of Egypt, including Manetho, speak of earlier ages ruled by the Neteru divine beings who governed Egypt before the first human pharaohs. These accounts, dismissed by modern historians as mythology, describe rulers who reigned for thousands of years and possessed knowledge far beyond that of mortals. The Turin King list, one of the most important ancient Egyptian chronologies, begins not with the first dynasty pharaohs, but with a series of divine rulers stretching back into an impossibly ancient past. While scholars interpret these as mythological frameworks, they may represent garbled memories of an actual historical period when Egypt was guided by beings possessing advanced knowledge. Even more intriguing are the references to Zep-Tepi, the first time found throughout Egyptian religious texts. This primordial epoch is described as a golden age when gods walked among humans and established the foundations of civilization. The details provided are not vague mythological flourishes, but specific accounts of the establishment of temples, the laying out of sacred sites, and the transmission of crucial knowledge to humanity. The precision of these accounts suggests they may be based on historical reality rather than pure imagination. The Edfu building texts, inscribed on the walls of the Temple of Horus at Edfu, provide detailed accounts of the primeval ones who came to Egypt after a great catastrophe destroyed their original homeland. These texts describe the systematic establishment of sacred sites, the burial of important artifacts, and the encoding of essential knowledge for future generations. What emerges from these sources is a picture of Egypt as the inheritor, not the originator, of its foundational knowledge. This would explain the sudden appearance of sophisticated techniques and the absence of a clear developmental progression. If the early Egyptians were guided by survivors of an earlier, more advanced civilization, their rapid technological leap becomes comprehensible. But who were these mysterious benefactors? The answer to that question leads us deeper into the shadows of prehistory, where the boundaries between myth and memory blur, and where the conventional timeline of human achievement faces its greatest challenges. Chapter 2, Traces in Stone and Star. The night sky above ancient Egypt held secrets that modern astronomy is only beginning to rediscover. When we examine the astronomical alignments embedded in Egypt's monuments, we encounter knowledge so precise and sophisticated that it challenges our understanding of what Bronze Age civilizations should have been capable of achieving. The Great Pyramid's astronomical orientation represents perhaps the most compelling evidence of this advanced knowledge. Its four sides align with the cardinal directions to an accuracy that rivals modern surveying techniques. The pyramid's internal passages point with laser-like precision towards specific stars as they appeared in the night sky 4.5 millennia ago. The southern shaft of the King's Chamber targets Orion, specifically the belt stars that the Egyptians associated with Osiris, while the northern shaft points toward the pole star of that epoch, Alpha Draconis. But this astronomical precision extends far beyond simple stellar alignments. The pyramid encodes knowledge of the Earth's exact dimensions that wasn't officially discovered until the 18th century. The structure's perimeter, when divided by its height, yields pi to several decimal places. Its height, when multiplied by 40,200, approximates the Earth's polar radius. These relationships cannot be coincidental. They represent intentional encoding of advanced mathematical and astronomical knowledge. Even more remarkable is the pyramid's apparent awareness of the precession of the equinoxes, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that causes the positions of stars to shift over a 26,000-year cycle. Modern astronomy didn't recognize this phenomenon until the Greek astronomer Hipparchus identified it in the 2nd century BCE. Yet the pyramid's design incorporates precessional calculations with stunning accuracy. The Dendera zodiac, discovered in the temple complex of Dendera, provides additional evidence of Egyptian astronomical sophistication. This ceiling relief maps the positions of stars and constellations with such precision that astronomers can use it to date specific historical events. It shows knowledge of stellar positions across thousands of years, including calculations that account for precession. This level of astronomical knowledge required not just observation, but mathematical modelling of extraordinary complexity. To track precessional cycles accurately demands centuries of continuous observation and the mathematical ability to recognise patterns spanning millennia. For a civilization supposedly focused on practical concerns of agriculture and governance, such dedication to long-term astronomical research seems inexplicable. The ancient Egyptian calendar further demonstrates this sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. While most ancient civilizations relied on lunar calendars that required frequent adjustments, the Egyptians developed a solar calendar of 365.25 days remarkably close to the actual solar year of 365.42 a nasty 9 days. This precision required observational astronomy of the highest order and mathematical calculations that wouldn't be matched again until the Renaissance. The Sothic cycle, based on the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, shows even deeper astronomical knowledge. The Egyptians recognized that Sirius rises with the sun only once every 1,461 years, due to the slight discrepancy between their 365-day calendar and the actual solar year. They not only identified this cycle, but built their chronological framework around it, demonstrating an understanding of time that encompassed millennia rather than mere centuries. Perhaps most intriguingly, the pyramid's design appears to encode the Earth's rotational period to extraordinary precision. The structure's base perimeter of 3,023 feet corresponds closely to the distance the Earth rotates in 1 minute at its equator. This suggests knowledge not just of astronomy, but of the Earth's physical properties and its relationship to cosmic timescales. The question becomes, how did ancient Egypt acquire such sophisticated astronomical knowledge? Traditional archaeology suggests gradual development through observation and recording, yet the precision we find in Egypt's earliest monuments implies access to observational data spanning thousands of years, far longer than Egyptian civilization had allegedly existed. Some researchers point to the Giza complex's apparent relationship with the constellation Orion as evidence of this extended timeline. Computer modeling shows that the 3 pyramids of Giza mirror the positions of Orion's belt stars, but not as they appeared when the pyramids were supposedly built. Instead, they match Orion's position during the epoch of 10,500 BCE, at the beginning of the Younger Dryas period, a time of global climatic upheaval. This correlation suggests either that the Giza complex was planned thousands of years before its construction, or that it commemorates events from a much earlier period. Both possibilities challenge conventional Egyptian chronology and hint at knowledge transmitted across vast spans of time. The astronomical precision found in Egypt appears to be part of a global phenomenon. Similar accuracy appears in monuments worldwide, often in cultures with no supposed contact with Egypt. The megalithic site of Newgrange in Ireland, constructed around the same period as the Giza pyramids, demonstrates comparable astronomical alignments and mathematical sophistication. Stonehenge, Angkor Wat and the Nazca lines all encode advanced astronomical knowledge that seems to exceed what their respective civilizations should have possessed. This global distribution of advanced astronomical knowledge raises profound questions about information transfer in the ancient world. Either multiple civilizations independently developed sophisticated astronomy at roughly the same time, an unlikely coincidence, or they shared a common source of knowledge that has been lost to mainstream history. The answer may lie in examining not just what ancient Egypt knew about astronomy, but how they claim to have learned it. Egyptian texts consistently attribute their knowledge to divine teachers, the Neteru and other celestial beings who allegedly instructed humanity in the arts of civilization. While modern scholarship treats these accounts as mythological, they may preserve memories of actual knowledge transmission from an unknown source. The precision of Egyptian astronomy, combined with its sudden appearance and global parallels, suggests that ancient Egypt was not developing astronomical knowledge, but preserving and applying it. The monuments of Giza may represent not the culmination of Egyptian achievement, but the earliest surviving expression of a much older understanding, one whose origins remain shrouded in the mist of prehistory. Chapter 3. The Architecture of Impossibility. Walk through the inner chambers of the Great Pyramid in the pre-dawn darkness, when tourist voices have faded and only the weight of millennia presses down from above, and you encounter something that defies rational explanation. The precision of the stonework surpasses anything achievable with the tools supposedly available to ancient Egyptian builders. Joints between massive granite blocks fit so perfectly that a human hair cannot be inserted between them. Surfaces achieve flatness tolerances that rival modern machine shops. Angles and measurements display accuracy that would challenge contemporary construction techniques. This is not the crude masonry of Bronze Age builders learning their craft through trial and error. This is the work of master engineers operating with knowledge and capabilities that conventional archaeology cannot explain. The King's Chamber within the Great Pyramid stands as perhaps the most compelling evidence of this impossible precision. Constructed entirely of red granite quarried 500 miles south in Aswan, the chamber consists of exactly 100 blocks, each weighing between 25 and 80 tons. The granite surfaces are polished to a mirror finish and achieve flatness tolerances of less than 0.1 inches across spans of several feet, a precision that requires advanced measuring instruments and machining capabilities. The chamber's acoustic properties reveal additional layers of sophistication. Sound within the space resonates at specific frequencies that correspond to the mathematical constants encoded in the pyramid's dimensions. When vocalized tones are produced at precise pitches, the chamber exhibits standing wave patterns that suggest its design incorporated advanced understanding of acoustic engineering. The sarcophagus within the King's Chamber presents its own mysteries. Carved from a single block of red granite, it displays machine-like precision in its internal angles and surface finish. The corners achieve perfect 90-degree angles with tolerances that exceed the capabilities of hand tools. More puzzling still, the sarcophagus is slightly larger than the chamber's entrance passage, indicating it was placed inside during construction, yet no evidence exists of the complex lifting and positioning equipment such an operation would require. The pyramid's internal passages reveal additional evidence of advanced engineering. The Grand Gallery, rising 26 feet high and 153 feet long, incorporates a corbelled ceiling of such precision that each of the 7 courses of stones projects inward by exactly the same amount. The gallery's floor contains a series of precisely machined slots whose purpose remains unknown, but whose execution required tools capable of cutting granite with extraordinary accuracy. The construction of these passages raises questions that have never been satisfactorily answered. How did ancient builders achieve such precision in tight, confined spaces? How did they illuminate their work in chambers buried deep within the pyramid's core? How did they transport and maneuver multi-ton blocks through passages barely wide enough to accommodate them? The precision found within the Great Pyramid extends throughout Egypt's ancient monuments. At the Serapeum of Saqqara, massive granite boxes display machining marks that appear to have been created by high-speed cutting tools. The surfaces of these boxes achieve flatness tolerances of 0.4 or 0.2 inches, a precision that requires sophisticated measuring equipment and machining capabilities. The boxes are carved from single blocks of granite weighing up to 100 tons, yet their internal surfaces are perfectly smooth and their angles precisely cut. The temple complex at Abu Simbel demonstrates similar precision on a monumental scale. The twin temples were carved directly from solid rock with such accuracy that the rising sun on specific days of the year penetrates the temple's depths to illuminate statues in the innermost sanctuary. This alignment requires not only precise carving, but sophisticated understanding of solar mechanics and geological stability over thousands of years. At Karnak, the hypostyle hall contains 134 columns, each precisely positioned to create sightlines and acoustic effects that enhance the temple's ritual function. The columns are carved from single blocks of sandstone, some weighing over 200 tons, and are decorated with hieroglyphic reliefs of extraordinary delicacy and precision. The layout demonstrates understanding of structural engineering that accounts for seismic activity and thermal expansion. The mystery deepens when we examine the tools supposedly used to achieve such precision. Archaeological evidence suggests ancient Egyptian builders had access to copper and bronze chisels, wooden mallets, ropes, and simple levers. Yet experiments attempting to replicate Egyptian stonework with these tools consistently fail to achieve comparable precision or efficiency. Modern stonemasons, using steel tools and powered equipment, struggle to match the quality of work found in ancient Egyptian monuments. The surface finishes, joint tolerances, and overall precision exceed what should be possible with primitive tools. This suggests either that ancient Egyptians possessed advanced tools that have not survived in the archaeological record, or that they employed techniques that modern builders have not rediscovered. The quarrying and transportation of the massive stones used in Egyptian construction present additional challenges. The granite blocks used in the Great Pyramid were quarried at Aswan and transported 500 miles north to Giza. These blocks, some weighing 80 tons, would have required river barges capable of carrying loads that exceed the capacity of vessels known to exist in ancient Egypt. The logistics of loading, transporting, and unloading such massive weights would have required sophisticated understanding of engineering and material science. The precision extends beyond individual monuments to the relationships between different structures. The Giza complex demonstrates geometric relationships that span miles and require survey techniques of extraordinary accuracy. The pyramid's positions create mathematical relationships that encode advanced constants and astronomical alignments. This level of coordination across such vast distances suggests surveying capabilities that far exceed what ancient civilizations supposedly possessed. Recent laser scanning and photogrammetric analysis of Egyptian monuments has revealed additional layers of precision previously unrecognized. The Great Pyramid's base, for example, achieves planarity across its entire surface to within just 2 centimeters, a tolerance that would be remarkable even for modern construction. The structure's internal chambers maintain precise geometric relationships despite being embedded within millions of tons of stone blocks. These discoveries force us to confront uncomfortable questions about ancient Egyptian capabilities. The precision, coordination, and technical sophistication evident in Egypt's monuments suggest access to knowledge and tools that conventional archaeology cannot account for. The builders of ancient Egypt achieved standards of accuracy that modern construction struggles to match, using techniques that remain mysterious despite decades of study. The implications extend beyond archaeology into our understanding of ancient human capabilities. If the Egyptians could achieve such precision in stonework, what other advanced knowledge might they have possessed? The monuments themselves may be only the visible remnants of a technological capability that was far more extensive than surviving evidence suggests. Act 2, The Hidden Sources. Chapter 4, Whispers from the Underground Archives. Deep beneath the Giza Plateau, where tourist footsteps never venture, and official archaeologists rarely speak of what they've glimpsed in shadowed moments, lie chambers that have waited in darkness for millennia. The Edgar Cayce Foundation may have popularized the concept of the Hall of Records, but indigenous Egyptian knowledge keepers have whispered of vast underground archives long before Western mystics arrived with their theories and metal detectors. Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted in the 1990s revealed what seismologists describe in carefully neutral terms as anomalous voids beneath the Sphinx and the plateaus surrounding the Great Pyramid. Dr. Thomas de Becky's comprehensive geophysical survey identified rectangular chambers directly below the Sphinx's pores, arranged in patterns too regular to be natural geological formations. The Egyptian authorities, citing structural integrity concerns, have consistently denied permits for further investigation. Yet the evidence continues to accumulate through indirect channels. Workers engaged in foundation repairs at the Sphinx in 2010 reported discovering a staircase descending into the bedrock, its steps carved with the same precision found in Egypt's most sophisticated monuments. The staircase, according to these unofficial accounts, led to a chamber containing stone tablets covered in hieroglyphic texts that didn't match any known Egyptian writing systems. These reports align with a pattern of suppressed discoveries that stretches back to the early days of Egyptology. Napoleon's expedition to Egypt in 1798 included a team of scholars and scientists who documented numerous underground spaces and chambers. Many of their findings were classified and remain sealed in French archives to this day. What public records do exist hint at discoveries that challenge conventional understanding of Egyptian history and capabilities. The construction of modern Cairo's infrastructure has repeatedly encountered ancient underground networks that extend far beyond mapped tomb complexes. Subway construction in the 1980s was delayed multiple times due to the discovery of hewn chambers and corridors that weren't supposed to exist. Workers reported finding rooms with walls covered in symbols that resembled hieroglyphs, but followed patterns and structures unknown to conventional Egyptology. Perhaps most intriguing are the Inventory Stela and other ancient texts that describe the Giza complex as already ancient when the 4th dynasty pharaohs arrived. These inscriptions suggest that Khufu and his successors didn't build the pyramids, but rather restored and modified structures that had stood for thousands of years. The texts describe chambers and passages within the Great Pyramid that have never been officially acknowledged, including a chamber of records sealed behind the walls of known passages. The Abydos helicopter hieroglyphs, while controversial, point to another layer of hidden knowledge. These carvings, found in the Temple of Seti the Fern, appear to depict modern vehicles including helicopters and submarines. Mainstream archaeology explains these as coincidental overlapping of different carving phases, but the precision and recognizable form suggest the ancient carvers had access to visual references of technologies that wouldn't be invented for thousands of years. Underground chambers have been identified through ground-penetrating radar at numerous Egyptian sites beyond Giza. At Saqqara, extensive tunnel networks connect the visible monuments to subterranean complexes that remain largely unexplored. At Dashur, seismic surveys have revealed void spaces beneath the Red Pyramid that could house chambers larger than those found in any known Egyptian tomb. The Egyptian government's consistent reluctance to permit exploration of these underground spaces raises questions about what they might contain. Official explanations cite conservation concerns and the need to preserve ancient sites, but the pattern of restrictions seems too comprehensive to be explained by preservation alone. Areas identified as containing significant underground chambers are often placed off limits to researchers, with permits denied without clear justification. Indigenous traditions among Egypt's rural populations preserve memories of underground cities connected by tunnels that stretch for miles beneath the desert. These oral histories describe vast halls filled with written records, libraries that contain the complete history of Egypt and the civilizations that preceded it. The guardians of this knowledge, according to tradition, are hereditary keepers who have maintained their watch for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptian texts themselves reference extensive underground archives. The pyramid texts, among the oldest religious writings in the world, describe chambers beneath the earth where the gods stored knowledge for future generations. The Book of the Dead contains detailed maps of underground realms, complete with specific instructions for navigating subterranean passages. While Egyptologists interpret these as metaphorical descriptions of the afterlife, their precision and consistency suggest they may be based on real geographical knowledge. Dr. Zahi Hawass, former head of Egyptian antiquities, has acknowledged the existence of underground chambers at Giza, but has consistently blocked attempts to explore them. His statements over the years have been contradictory at times, denying that significant chambers exist, at other times confirming their presence but insisting they contain nothing of importance. This inconsistency has fueled speculation about what these spaces actually contain and why access is so strictly controlled. Recent technological advances have made it possible to map underground structures with unprecedented precision. LIDAR scanning, electromagnetic surveys, and advanced seismic imaging can now reveal chamber details from the surface. Yet these technologies are rarely deployed at Egyptian sites, and when they are, the results are often classified or restricted to small circles of approved researchers. The few researchers who have gained access to underground areas at Egyptian sites report discoveries that challenge conventional chronology. Carbon dating of organic materials found in sealed chambers has yielded dates far older than the supposed construction dates of the monuments above. Wood samples and textile fragments have tested to periods predating Egyptian civilization by thousands of years, suggesting these underground spaces may be remnants of much earlier construction phases. What emerges from this pattern of hidden discoveries is the possibility that Egypt's visible monuments represent only the surface layer of a far more extensive complex. The underground archives, if they exist as described, could contain records spanning tens of thousands of years, a continuous chronicle of human civilization that would rewrite our understanding of ancient history. The suppression of these discoveries, whether motivated by academic conservatism, political concerns, or something more deliberate, has created a shadow archaeology where the most significant finds remain hidden from public view. Yet the whispers persist, and occasionally evidence emerges that confirms what the underground archives have long been said to contain. Proof that Egyptian civilization inherited its knowledge from sources far older and more advanced than mainstream history acknowledges. Chapter 5. The Atlantis Connection. Refugees of a Lost World. In the sacred chambers of Egyptian temples, where priests once guarded the most precious secrets of their civilization, ancient inscriptions speak of visitors who came from across the waters bearing gifts of knowledge that would transform the Nile Valley forever. These were not ordinary travelers or traders, but refugees from a catastrophe so vast it had erased their homeland from the earth itself. The Egyptians called them the followers of Horus, and their influence would permeate every aspect of Egyptian civilization for millennia to come. Plato's account of Atlantis, preserved in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, places the destruction of the island continent approximately 9,000 years before his own time around 9600 BCE. This date coincides with the end of the Younger Dryas period, a time of dramatic global climate change marked by rising sea levels, massive flooding, and the extinction of numerous species. Geological evidence confirms that this period saw unprecedented environmental upheaval that could easily have submerged island civilizations or coastal empires, but Plato's account contains details that suggest his story was more than philosophical allegory. He describes Atlantis as possessing advanced metallurgy, sophisticated engineering, and knowledge of astronomy and mathematics that surpassed contemporary civilizations. The Atlanteans, according to Plato, had mastered techniques for working with massive stone blocks, creating precise astronomical alignments and building monuments that would endure for thousands of years. These capabilities match remarkably well with what we find in ancient Egypt. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, recorded conversations with Egyptian priests who claimed their civilization extended back 11,000 years before his time. This chronology places the origins of Egyptian culture precisely in the period when Atlantis was supposedly destroyed. The priests spoke of divine kings who had ruled Egypt in the distant past and who possessed knowledge far exceeding that of ordinary mortals. Manetho's Egyptica, the most comprehensive ancient chronicle of Egyptian history, begins not with human pharaohs but with dynasties of gods and demigods who reigned for thousands of years. These divine rulers are described as tall, luminous beings who came from across the waters and established the foundations of Egyptian civilization. They brought with them knowledge of architecture, astronomy, medicine, and spiritual practices that would define Egyptian culture throughout its history. The Turin King list corroborates this account, beginning its chronology with divine rulers whose reign stretched back into a mythical golden age. Modern Egyptology dismisses these early entries as mythological padding, but they may preserve actual historical memories of a time when Egypt was ruled by survivors of an advanced civilization that had fled a global catastrophe. Archaeological evidence supports the possibility of such ancient contact. The oldest layers of Giza show construction techniques and materials that differ significantly from later periods. These early phases display a level of sophistication that appears suddenly in the archaeological record without the gradual development typically seen in emerging technologies. The precision of the stonework, the advanced understanding of astronomy, and the mathematical knowledge encoded in the monuments all suggest influence from an already mature civilization. DNA analysis of ancient Egyptian mummies has revealed genetic markers that don't correspond to indigenous African or Middle Eastern populations. A significant percentage of the elite mummies show European and even South American genetic signatures that suggest contact with populations from distant lands. While mainstream science explains these anomalies as evidence of ancient trade networks, they could also indicate immigration by survivors of a destroyed Atlantic civilization. The Edfu building texts provide perhaps the most detailed account of this ancient contact. These inscriptions, carved on the walls of the Temple of Horus at Edfu, describe the arrival of the builder gods after the destruction of their homeland by flood. These divine beings are said to have possessed complete plans for reconstructing their civilization, including detailed knowledge of sacred sites, astronomical alignments, and architectural techniques. According to the Edfu texts, these refugees didn't simply settle in Egypt but systematically recreated key elements of their lost homeland. They established temple sites at specific locations chosen for their geological and astronomical properties. They buried sacred objects and knowledge caches at predetermined points throughout the Nile Valley. Most importantly, they encoded their advanced understanding in monuments designed to preserve essential information for future generations. The similarity between Plato's description of Atlantean architecture and what we find in ancient Egypt is striking. Both civilizations are described as masters of megalithic construction, capable of moving and positioning massive stone blocks with extraordinary precision. Both possessed advanced knowledge of astronomy and incorporated celestial alignments into their monuments. Both developed sophisticated understanding of mathematics and encoded numerical constants in their architectural designs. The Atlantean practice of creating concentric circular canals around their capital city finds echoes in Egyptian temple design, where sacred lakes and channels often surround the central sanctuary. The Egyptian practice of mummification and the elaborate preparation of the dead for an afterlife journey mirrors Plato's description of Atlantean beliefs about consciousness, survival after death. Even more compelling are the shared symbols and motifs that appear in cultures around the world following the end of the Younger Dryas period. The Ankh symbol, ubiquitous in Egyptian art, appears in various forms in civilizations from Ireland to India, all dating to the same general time period. The image of the world tree connecting heaven, earth, and underworld manifests across cultures that supposedly had no contact with each other. The global spread of advanced astronomical knowledge following the Younger Dryas catastrophe suggests a coordinated effort to preserve and transmit essential information. The megalithic monuments that suddenly appear worldwide during this period, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, Newgrange in Ireland. The earliest phases of Stonehenge all demonstrate sophisticated understanding of astronomy and engineering that seems to emerge fully formed rather than developing gradually. This global distribution of advanced knowledge is exactly what we would expect if survivors of a destroyed civilization had dispersed to different continents, carrying with them the essential elements of their culture. Egypt, with its stable environment and strategic position at the crossroads of Africa, Asia, and Europe, would have been an ideal location for re-establishing civilization. The refugee hypothesis also explains why Egyptian civilization appears to have inherited rather than developed its foundational knowledge. The precision of early Egyptian monuments, the sophistication of their astronomical understanding, and the advanced mathematics encoded in their architecture all suggest access to a mature knowledge base rather than the gradual accumulation of discovery and innovation. Critics point out that no physical remains of Atlantis have been definitively identified, but this objection assumes the lost civilization was located on dry land. If Atlantis was indeed an island empire destroyed by rising sea levels at the end of the Ice Age, its remains would now lie beneath hundreds of feet of water on the continental shelves. Recent underwater discoveries off the coasts of India, Japan, and the Mediterranean have revealed sophisticated stone structures that predate known civilizations by thousands of years. The connection between ancient Egypt and a lost Atlantic civilization remains speculative, but the evidence is suggestive enough to warrant serious consideration. The timing of Egypt's cultural flowering, the sudden appearance of advanced knowledge, and the global distribution of similar capabilities all point to contact with refugees from a destroyed civilization. If true, this would mean that Egyptian monuments are not just testaments to ancient ingenuity, but monuments to survival, the last traces of a lost world that refused to let its knowledge die with it. Chapter 6. The Teachers from the Inner Earth. In the deepest chambers of Egyptian temples, where the walls bear inscriptions older than recorded history, there are references to teachings that came not from the sky or across distant seas, but from the earth itself. The ancient hieroglyphs speak of the dwellers in the deep, beings of profound wisdom who emerge from hidden realms beneath the sands to guide the first dynasties in the arts of civilization. These accounts, dismissed by mainstream archaeology as mythology, may preserve memories of contact with an advanced subterranean civilization that has watched over Egypt from the beginning. The concept of an inner earth civilization finds its strongest expression in the global tradition of Agartha. The hidden realm described in countless cultures as a sanctuary of advanced beings dwelling beneath the surface world. In Egyptian contexts, this hidden kingdom is often associated with the Duat, the underworld realm depicted in funerary texts not as a place of the dead, but as a parallel universe inhabited by luminous beings of great knowledge and power. The pyramid texts, among the oldest religious writings known to humanity, contain detailed descriptions of underground realms that extend far beyond simple burial chambers. These texts describe vast halls filled with light that has no earthly source, rivers that flow through chambers of crystal, and libraries where the complete history of civilization is preserved in forms more durable than stone or papyrus. While Egyptologists interpret these as metaphorical descriptions of the afterlife, their specificity and consistency suggest they may be based on actual geographical knowledge. Ancient Egyptian artwork frequently depicts tall, luminous beings with elongated skulls and features that differ markedly from typical human proportions. These figures, often shown instructing pharaohs or presiding over important ceremonies, are traditionally identified as gods or divine spirits. However, their consistent physical characteristics and their role as teachers and guides suggest they may represent actual beings that ancient Egyptians encountered in person. The Abydos King List, one of the most important chronological records of ancient Egypt, begins not with the first human pharaohs but with a series of divine rulers whose reigns stretch back into an impossibly remote past. These early kings are described as possessing lifespans measured in thousands rather than decades of years, and as ruling from underground realms rather than surface palaces. The list suggests that Egypt's earliest dynasties were guided by beings whose origins lay beneath rather than above the earth. Modern ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted at various Egyptian sites have revealed extensive underground networks that extend far beyond known tomb complexes. At Giza, these surveys have identified chambers and corridors that appear to connect the visible monuments with subterranean complexes of enormous scope. At Saqqara, similar networks extend for miles beneath the surface, creating an underground city that mirrors and perhaps predates the monuments above. The consistent suppression of exploration into these underground spaces raises questions about what authorities might be protecting. Official explanations cite structural integrity concerns and archaeological preservation, but the pattern of restrictions is too comprehensive to be explained by conservation alone. Areas where ground-penetrating radar has identified the most extensive underground chambers are often placed permanently off-limits to researchers. Indigenous traditions among Egypt's rural populations preserve detailed knowledge of underground realms and their inhabitants. These oral histories describe tall beings with pale, luminous skin who emerge from hidden entrances at specific times to meet with chosen representatives of surface humanity. The beings are said to possess technologies that appear magical to surface dwellers, but are based on advanced understanding of natural forces and energy manipulation. According to these traditions, the underground civilization has maintained itself for thousands of years through mastery of geothermal energy, underground water sources, and agricultural techniques that require no sunlight. Their cities are described as vast chambers carved from solid rock, illuminated by crystalline formations that emit steady light, and connected by tunnels that extend for hundreds of miles beneath the desert. The beings themselves are described as physically similar to humans, but adapted to subterranean life over countless generations. They are said to be taller than average, with large eyes adapted to low-light conditions and pale skin that reflects the ambient luminescence of their cities. Most significantly, they are described as possessing lifespans that stretch across centuries, allowing them to accumulate knowledge and wisdom far beyond what surface humans can achieve in their brief decades. These descriptions align remarkably well with similar accounts from other parts of the world. Tibetan traditions speak of underground kingdoms whose inhabitants periodically make contact with surface monasteries. Native American legends describe the Ant people, who sheltered early humans during global catastrophes and taught them essential survival skills. Across cultures, the underground dwellers are consistently described as teachers and protectors, rather than conquerors or exploiters. The technological capabilities attributed to these beings would explain many of the puzzles surrounding ancient Egyptian construction. The precision of the stonework, the ability to move and position massive blocks, and the advanced understanding of astronomy and mathematics could all be explained by guidance from a civilization with thousands of years of accumulated knowledge and technological development. Recent discoveries at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey have revealed construction techniques and artistic sophistication that appear suddenly in the archaeological record with no apparent developmental phase. The site's builders possessed advanced knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and sculpture that rivals anything achieved in the ancient world. The sudden appearance of such capabilities suggests instruction by teachers who already possessed mature understanding of these arts. The global distribution of megalithic construction techniques during the post-glacial period could be explained by coordinated instruction from underground teachers. The similarity of construction methods, astronomical alignments, and mathematical relationships found in monuments worldwide suggest a common source of knowledge rather than independent development by isolated cultures. Egyptian texts describe specific entrances to the underground realm, often hidden within or beneath major temples. The Temple of Edfu contains inscriptions that appear to be maps of underground passages, complete with landmarks and distances. The Temple of Dendera includes astronomical charts that some researchers interpret as showing not just celestial positions, but underground navigation aids based on the positions of stars visible through entrance shafts. Modern attempts to locate these entrances have been consistently blocked by Egyptian authorities. Areas identified through ground-penetrating radar as containing the most promising access points are placed off-limits to researchers, often with military guards posted to prevent unauthorized exploration. This level of security suggests that the authorities may have knowledge of what lies beneath that they are not prepared to share with the public. The possibility that ancient Egypt was guided by an advanced underground civilization would revolutionize our understanding of ancient history. It would explain the sudden appearance of sophisticated knowledge, the precision of early construction techniques, and the global distribution of advanced capabilities that characterizes the post-glacial period. Most importantly, it would suggest that advanced human civilization has much deeper roots than conventional archaeology acknowledges. If the teachers from the inner earth are real, they may still be there, watching and waiting for surface humanity to demonstrate the wisdom and responsibility necessary for renewed contact. The monuments of ancient Egypt, with their encoded astronomical knowledge and precision construction, may be not just testaments to ancient achievement, but messages from a hidden civilization that has never truly gone away. In the basement archives of the Cairo Museum, far from the public galleries where carefully curated exhibits tell the approved story of ancient Egypt, lie artifacts that challenge every assumption about the timeline and capabilities of ancient civilization. These are the anomalies objects that don't fit the accepted narrative, discoveries that have been quietly filed away, and evidence that suggests a far more complex and ancient heritage than mainstream archaeology is prepared to acknowledge. The Baghdad Battery, discovered in 1938 near the Iraqi capital, represents one of the most controversial archaeological finds of the modern era. This clay jar, containing a copper cylinder and iron rod sealed with asphalt, generates electrical current when filled with an acidic solution. Similar artifacts have been discovered in Egyptian contexts, hidden away in museum collections and rarely displayed. When tested, these devices produce measurable electrical output, suggesting ancient civilizations possessed knowledge of electrochemistry that wasn't officially discovered until the 18th century. Dr. Arne Eggebrecht of the Roma and Pelizaeus Museum demonstrated that such devices could have been used for electroplating gold onto silver and copper objects, a technique that would explain the extraordinary durability and appearance of many ancient Egyptian artifacts. Yet mainstream archaeology continues to dismiss these devices as coincidental curiosities rather than evidence of advanced ancient technology. The Antikythera mechanism, while Greek rather than Egyptian, provides a template for understanding how advanced knowledge might have been encoded in mechanical devices throughout the ancient world. This bronze computer, dating to the 1st century BCE, calculated astronomical positions with accuracy that wouldn't be matched again until the Renaissance. Its discovery proved that ancient civilizations could create mechanical devices of extraordinary sophistication. If the Greeks possessed such technology, what similar devices might have existed in Egypt, with its far longer tradition of astronomical observation? Recent excavations at Saqqara have uncovered artifacts that don't appear in official reports, but have leaked through informal channels among archaeologists. Workers describe finding metallic objects with properties that don't match any known ancient alloys materials that remain uncorroded after thousands of years and exhibit characteristics that modern metallurgy struggles to explain. These artifacts are reportedly removed from excavation sites immediately upon discovery and disappear into restricted collections. The Dendera light reliefs present another category of anomaly. These temple carvings appear to depict electrical devices specifically, what look like large light bulbs connected to cables and power sources. Electrical engineers who have studied the reliefs note that they accurately represent the components and connections required for arc lighting systems. The hieroglyphic text accompanying the images uses terminology that, when translated literally, describes electrical phenomena rather than mythological concepts. Orthodox Egyptologists explain these images as representations of mythological symbols, lotus flowers emerging from the primeval waters, serpents of creation, and divine emanations. But the technical accuracy of the depictions suggests the ancient artists were working from actual models rather than abstract religious concepts. The precision with which the cables connect the devices, the accurate representation of insulating supports, and the realistic portrayal of what appears to be a power source all point to knowledge of electrical principles. The suppression of anomalous discoveries extends far beyond individual artifacts to entire archaeological sites. The Osiris shaft at Giza, discovered in the 1930s but not officially acknowledged until the 1990s, contains chambers that extend 100 feet beneath the Giza plateau. When archaeologists finally gained access to these chambers, they found precision-cut granite sarcophagi submerged in groundwater, with construction techniques that surpass anything found in accepted Egyptian contexts. The chambers are filled with carefully engineered water channels that maintain consistent levels despite seasonal variations in the water table. The precision of the stonework exceeds that found in the most sophisticated Egyptian monuments, yet the site predates the supposed golden age of Egyptian architecture by centuries. Official explanations describe it as a symbolic representation of the underworld, but the engineering sophistication suggests a far more practical purpose. Dr. Zahi Hawass, former head of Egyptian antiquities, has been notably inconsistent in his statements about such discoveries. In some interviews, he denies the existence of significant anomalies, while in others he acknowledges their presence but insists they have conventional explanations. This pattern of contradictory statements extends to numerous discoveries that challenge orthodox chronology. The restriction of access to certain archaeological sites creates a shadow archaeology, where the most significant discoveries remain hidden from public view. Areas where ground-penetrating radar has identified the most promising anomalies are often declared off-limits to researchers, with permits denied without clear justification. The pattern suggests systematic suppression of evidence that might challenge established historical narratives. Carbon dating results from Egyptian sites frequently show anomalies that don't align with conventional chronology. Organic materials found in sealed context consistently date to periods far older than the supposed construction dates of the monuments in which they're found. Wood samples from the Great Pyramid have yielded dates ranging from 3809 to 2869 BCE, centuries older than the supposed reign of Khufu. These dating anomalies are typically explained as contamination or sampling error, but the consistency of the results across multiple sites and dating methods suggests systematic problems with orthodox chronology. The possibility that Egyptian monuments are far older than conventionally believed would revolutionize our understanding of ancient history, which may explain why such evidence is often suppressed or ignored. The restriction of advanced analytical techniques at Egyptian sites prevents comprehensive examination of anomalous evidence. Ground-penetrating radar surveys are rarely permitted, and when they are conducted, the results are often classified. Advanced dating techniques, chemical analysis of unusual materials, and detailed engineering studies of precision artifacts are consistently blocked or limited to approved researchers. This pattern of restriction extends to international research teams attempting to investigate Egyptian anomalies. Foreign archaeologists report consistent difficulties obtaining permits for studies that might challenge orthodox interpretations. Research proposals involving advanced analytical techniques or interdisciplinary approaches are routinely rejected, while conventional archaeological studies receive approval. The political dimensions of archaeological suppression in Egypt involve more than academic conservatism. Tourism revenue from traditional Egyptian history represents billions of dollars annually, and discoveries that challenge conventional narratives could disrupt this economic foundation. The stability of academic careers, institutional funding, and national identity all depend on maintaining established historical frameworks. Yet evidence continues to emerge despite official restrictions. Satellite imagery reveals geometric patterns in the Egyptian landscape that suggest far more extensive ancient construction than officially acknowledged. Geological surveys identify artificial modifications to natural formations that predate known Egyptian civilization. Seismic studies detect underground chambers and tunnel networks that extend far beyond mapped archaeological sites. The accumulation of anomalous evidence creates a picture of ancient Egypt that differs dramatically from orthodox narratives. Instead of a civilization that developed gradually from primitive beginnings, the evidence suggests a culture that inherited advanced knowledge from unknown predecessors. The precision of construction, the sophistication of engineering, and the advanced understanding of natural forces all point to capabilities that far exceed what Bronze Age civilization should have possessed. The suppression of this evidence reflects more than academic caution or methodological conservatism. It suggests systematic efforts to maintain historical narratives that may no longer be supported by the available data. The implications of acknowledging these anomalies would extend far beyond Egyptology to challenge fundamental assumptions about the development of human civilization. As new discoveries continue to emerge and analytical techniques become more sophisticated, the pressure to acknowledge these anomalies grows stronger. The question is not whether the evidence will eventually force a revision of ancient history, but whether that revision will come through gradual acceptance or sudden revelation when the weight of suppressed evidence becomes too overwhelming to ignore. Chapter 8, Decoding the Message in Stone. Stand within the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid at the moment of the autumn equinox, when the sun's rays penetrate the monument's precisely aligned passages, and you witness something that transcends architecture. The ancient builders didn't simply construct a tomb or even a temple. They created a three-dimensional mathematical equation carved in stone, a cosmic computer designed to preserve and transmit knowledge across millennia. The mathematical constants encoded within the Great Pyramid's dimensions represent knowledge that wouldn't be officially recognized by human civilization for thousands of years. The relationship between the pyramid's perimeter and height yields P to an accuracy of 0.05% remarkable precision for a monument supposedly built by Bronze Age mathematicians who had no concept of transcendental numbers. The pyramid's height, when multiplied by 43,200, approximates the Earth's polar radius. Its base perimeter, when multiplied by the same factor, approximates the Earth's equatorial circumference. These relationships cannot be coincidental. The number 43,200 represents exactly half of the precession cycle, the 86,400-year period during which Earth's axis completes one full wobble. The pyramid's builders demonstrated knowledge not only of advanced mathematics, but of the planet's physical dimensions and cosmic cycles that modern astronomy didn't recognize until centuries after the pyramid's construction. The internal chambers reveal additional layers of mathematical sophistication. The king's chamber's proportions encode the golden ratio Fef with extraordinary precision. Its length, width, and height create geometric relationships that reflect advanced understanding of sacred geometry principles. The chamber functions as a three-dimensional representation of mathematical constants that govern natural growth patterns, from the spiral of nautilus shells to the distribution of galaxies in space. The Grand Gallery, rising at precisely 2618 degrees an angle that corresponds to the pyramid's internal geometry, contains 27 pairs of notches carved into its walls. These notches, whose purpose remains officially unknown, are positioned at intervals that correspond to harmonic frequencies. When sound is generated within the gallery at specific frequencies, standing wave patterns emerge that align precisely with the notch positions, suggesting the ancient builders understood acoustic engineering principles that wouldn't be formally recognized until the modern era. The pyramid's ventilation shafts encode astronomical data with startling accuracy. The southern shaft of the king's chamber points to the star El-Nitak in Orion's belt as it appeared in 2450 BCE, but calculations show this alignment was most precise around 10,500 BCE, during the last time Orion occupied this position due to precession. The northern shaft targets Alpha Draconis, the pole star of that ancient epoch. These alignments suggest the pyramid was designed to commemorate or encode information about astronomical events from the distant past. Recent laser scanning has revealed that the Great Pyramid's faces are not flat but slightly concave, with each face curving inward by approximately 0.5 degrees. This concavity, invisible to casual observation, serves multiple purposes. It compensates for optical distortion that would otherwise make the faces appear to bulge outward when viewed from ground level. More significantly, it encodes the precise curvature of the Earth's surface knowledge that implies understanding of the planet's spherical shape and accurate measurement of its circumference. The pyramid's geographic positioning reveals additional encoded information. Its location at 29,97924 speed-like degree N latitude corresponds precisely to the speed of light, 299,792,458 meters per second. This correlation was discovered only in modern times, after both the speed of light and the pyramid's precise coordinates had been measured with sufficient accuracy. The probability of such correlation occurring by chance is essentially zero, suggesting intentional encoding of this fundamental physical constant. The base length of the Great Pyramid, 230.3 meters when multiplied by 43 × 200, yields 9,149,296 meters, which differs from half the Earth's polar circumference by less than 0.05%. This precision requires not only accurate measurement of the pyramid, but sophisticated understanding of the Earth's dimensions. The ancient builders somehow possessed geodetic knowledge that enabled them to encode planetary measurements in their monuments' dimensions. The relationship between the pyramid's dimensions and the mathematical constant E, approximately 2.7 to 18, appears in multiple geometric relationships within the structure. The ratio between the pyramid's height and the radius of a circle with the same perimeter as the base approximates E to remarkable accuracy. This transcendental number governs exponential growth patterns throughout nature and forms the foundation of calculus mathematical concepts not formally recognized until the 17th century. The acoustic properties of the pyramid's chambers reveal understanding of harmonic resonance that exceeds what Bronze Age builders should have possessed. The King's Chamber resonates at a fundamental frequency of 438 Hz, precisely the frequency that creates standing wave patterns aligned with the chamber's dimensions. When vocalization occurs at this frequency, the chamber exhibits acoustic phenomena that suggest it was designed to amplify and focus sound in ways that modern acoustic engineers are only beginning to understand. The internal passages of the pyramid encode numerical relationships based on the Fibonacci sequence, the mathematical series that governs growth patterns throughout the natural world. The angles, proportions, and dimensional relationships throughout the structure reflect deep understanding of mathematical principles that govern everything from flower petal arrangements to galaxy spiral arms. This suggests the pyramid's builders possessed comprehensive knowledge of the mathematical laws that underlie physical reality. Chemical analysis of the pyramid's mortar has revealed an unusual composition that includes materials not native to Egypt. Microscopic examination shows the presence of organic compounds that suggest biological additives designed to enhance the mortar's durability and binding properties. The specific combination of materials represents chemistry knowledge that enabled the creation of building compounds superior to many modern alternatives. The precision of the pyramid's construction extends to details that serve no apparent practical purpose, but encode additional information. Joint tolerances between stones are maintained to thousandths of an inch across surfaces spanning several feet. Corner angles achieve precision that varies by less than 2 arc minutes from perfect right angles. This level of accuracy requires measuring instruments and construction techniques that surpass the capabilities attributed to ancient Egyptian builders. The Giza complex as a whole encodes additional mathematical relationships that span across multiple monuments. The positioning of the 3 pyramids creates geometric patterns that reflect stellar configurations and mathematical constants. The distance relationships between the pyramids, when expressed in ancient Egyptian cubits, yield integer multiples of fundamental mathematical constants, including pi, phi, and the square root of 2. Thermal imaging of the pyramid reveals internal heat patterns that suggest additional chambers or passages not yet explored. These thermal anomalies create geometric patterns that align with the pyramid's overall mathematical design, suggesting that even undiscovered internal features follow the same encoded principles that govern the known chambers and passages. The message encoded in the Great Pyramid stone transcends simple architectural achievement. The builders created a permanent record of advanced mathematical and scientific knowledge, preserved in forms so durable that it has survived intact for millennia. The precision and comprehensiveness of this encoded information suggests an urgent need to preserve essential knowledge, possibly in anticipation of civilizational collapse or catastrophic change. The pyramid functions as a 3-dimensional textbook of advanced mathematics, astronomy, physics, and engineering. Its encoded information could serve to bootstrap scientific knowledge in any future civilization that achieves sufficient analytical capability to decode its messages. This suggests the pyramid's builders understood that knowledge preservation requires not just written records, but multiple redundant encoding systems that could survive the rise and fall of civilizations. The implications extend beyond ancient history to our understanding of knowledge transmission across time. If the Great Pyramid successfully preserved advanced information for over 4 millennia, similar encoding techniques might exist in other ancient monuments worldwide. The possibility that ancient builders systematically preserved essential knowledge in stone creates opportunities for recovering lost wisdom that could advance modern understanding of mathematics, physics, and engineering. Chapter 9. The Global Network. Egypt's Place in a Larger Pattern. From the windswept plains of Salisbury, where Stonehenge marks celestial cycles with megalithic precision, to the mist-shrouded peaks of Machu Picchu, where impossible stonework defies conventional explanations, a pattern emerges that suggests ancient Egypt was not an isolated flowering of advanced civilization, but part of a coordinated global network of knowledge preservation and transmission. The mathematical relationships encoded in the Great Pyramid appear, with stunning consistency, in megalithic monuments across every inhabited continent. This cannot be coincidence. The probability of multiple isolated civilizations independently developing identical mathematical concepts, construction techniques, and astronomical alignments approaches zero. What emerges instead is evidence of coordinated planning, shared knowledge, and synchronized construction that spanned the ancient world. Angkor Wat in Cambodia, constructed nearly 3 millennia after Giza, demonstrates the same sophisticated understanding of precessional astronomy that characterizes Egyptian monuments. The temple complex serves as a stone calendar that tracks the 26,000-year precessional cycle with extraordinary accuracy. Its dimensions encode the same mathematical constants found in the Great Pyramid Pi, the golden ratio, and harmonic proportions that reflect advanced understanding of sacred geometry. The precision extends beyond mathematics to construction techniques that mirror those found in Egypt. The massive stone blocks at Angkor Wat are fitted together with tolerances measured in millimeters, achieving joint precision that rivals modern masonry. The transportation and positioning of these megalithic elements required engineering capabilities that conventional archaeology cannot adequately explain. Yet the techniques employed are virtually identical to those found at Giza and other Egyptian sites. Sacsayhuaman in Peru presents perhaps the most compelling example of this global construction network. The Cyclopean walls of this Andean fortress employ the same polygonal masonry techniques found in Egyptian temples, with blocks weighing up to 200 tons fitted together in complex three-dimensional puzzles. The precision of the joints, the advanced understanding of structural engineering, and the transportation logistics required for construction, all parallel challenges faced and overcome by ancient Egyptian builders. The acoustic properties of these Peruvian monuments mirror those found in Egyptian structures. Recent studies have revealed that the stone walls of Sacsayhuaman create resonance patterns at specific frequencies, just as the chambers within Egyptian pyramids exhibit harmonic properties designed for acoustic amplification. This suggests shared understanding of sound engineering principles that transcended geographic boundaries. Easter Island's Moai statues encode astronomical alignments that demonstrate sophisticated knowledge of celestial mechanics. The positioning of these monuments tracks stellar positions across thousands of years, incorporating the same precessional calculations found in Egyptian astronomy. The precision of these alignments required observational capabilities and mathematical sophistication that match those demonstrated at Giza and other Egyptian sites. The construction techniques employed on Easter Island also parallel Egyptian methods in unexpected ways. Recent excavations have revealed that the Moai statues possess full bodies, extending deep underground, carved with the same precision as their visible heads. The excavation process has uncovered petroglyphs and construction details that demonstrate engineering capabilities far exceeding what should have been possible for an isolated island population using primitive tools. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, predating Egyptian civilization by several millennia, establishes the antiquity of this global network. The site's massive T-shaped pillars are carved with astronomical symbols and positioned in circular formations that track celestial movements. The precision of the astronomical alignments and the sophistication of the stone carving demonstrate that advanced knowledge existed long before the rise of known civilizations. The sudden appearance of Göbekli Tepe in the archaeological record with no apparent developmental phase mirrors the anomalous emergence of advanced capabilities in ancient Egypt. Both sites appear to represent applications of mature knowledge rather than experimental developments, suggesting instruction by teachers who already possessed comprehensive understanding of construction and astronomical techniques. Newgrange Island demonstrates the same astronomical precision found in Egyptian monuments, despite being constructed thousands of miles away and centuries earlier. The passage tomb's entrance is aligned to receive sunlight only during the winter solstice, requiring sophisticated understanding of solar mechanics and precise construction techniques. The interior chambers exhibit the same acoustic properties found in Egyptian pyramids, creating resonance effects that amplify sound at specific frequencies. The mathematical relationships encoded in Newgrange's design mirror those found at Giza. The monument's dimensions incorporate pi, the golden ratio, and harmonic proportions that reflect advanced understanding of sacred geometry. The precision of construction techniques and the sophistication of astronomical alignments demonstrate capabilities that match those found in Egyptian monuments. The global distribution of advanced astronomical knowledge during the post-glacial period suggests coordinated efforts to preserve and transmit essential information. The consistency of precessional calculations, stellar alignments, and mathematical constants across widely separated sites indicates shared sources of knowledge rather than independent discovery by isolated cultures. This coordinated preservation effort may represent response to global catastrophe that threatened the survival of advanced civilization. The end of the Younger Dryas period, marked by dramatic climate change and rising sea levels, could have motivated a systematic effort to encode essential knowledge in durable monuments positioned at strategic locations worldwide. The geometric relationships between ancient sites reveal additional evidence of global coordination. Lines connecting major megalithic monuments create geometric patterns that incorporate the same mathematical constants found in individual structures. The distances between Giza and Stonehenge, between Angkor Wat and Easter Island, and between other major sites frequently yield harmonic relationships and mathematical constants when expressed in ancient measurement systems. These geometric relationships suggest the sites were positioned according to a global plan that incorporated both astronomical alignments and geographic coordinates. The precision required for such coordination implies advanced surveying capabilities and comprehensive geographic knowledge that transcended the limitations supposedly faced by ancient civilizations. The timing of construction at various sites worldwide shows clustering around specific periods that correspond to astronomical events and climatic changes. Many of the most sophisticated monuments were constructed during periods of environmental stress, when civilizations faced challenges that threatened their survival. This suggests the monuments serve not only as ceremonial centers, but as knowledge repositories designed to preserve essential information through periods of cultural disruption. Trade networks connecting ancient civilizations were far more extensive than conventional history acknowledges. Archaeological evidence reveals contact between Egypt and civilizations in South America, Asia, and the Pacific that should not have been possible using primitive transportation methods. These connections provided pathways for knowledge transmission that could account for the global distribution of advanced techniques and astronomical understanding. The similarity of symbols, construction techniques, and astronomical knowledge found worldwide during the post-glacial period indicates cultural contact and knowledge sharing on a scale that challenges conventional understanding of ancient isolation. The coordination required for such global networks suggests centralized planning and sophisticated communication systems that transcended the primitive technologies attributed to ancient civilizations. Modern analysis using satellite imagery and geographic information systems has revealed that ancient monuments worldwide are positioned according to geometric patterns that span continents. These patterns incorporate the same mathematical relationships found in individual structures, suggesting that the global distribution of sites was planned according to comprehensive understanding of planetary dimensions and celestial mechanics. The implications of this global network extend beyond ancient history to challenge fundamental assumptions about human development and cultural interaction. If ancient civilizations possessed the knowledge and capability to coordinate construction projects across continents, they also possessed technologies and organizational systems far more advanced than conventional history acknowledges. The preservation of this knowledge in stone monuments positioned worldwide suggests recognition that such information was too valuable to risk losing to the collapse of any single civilization. The global network represents not just ancient achievement, but ancient wisdom recognition that knowledge preservation requires redundancy, durability, and strategic distribution that could survive catastrophic change. Act 4, the deeper implications. Chapter 10. What this means for human history. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the weight of accumulated evidence settles like desert sand in the mind, we must confront a truth that reshapes everything we thought we knew about human civilization. The monuments of ancient Egypt, standing in perfect mathematical harmony with similar structures across the globe, are not simply testaments to ancient ingenuity. They are libraries carved in stone, preserving knowledge from a chapter of human history that has been systematically forgotten, suppressed, or lost to cataclysmic change. The revision required by this evidence extends far beyond adjusting dates or reassigning credit for architectural achievements. It demands a fundamental reimagining of human development, cultural transmission, and the very nature of progress itself. If the Great Pyramid encodes mathematical constants that wouldn't be discovered for millennia, if ancient sites worldwide demonstrate coordinated astronomical knowledge, if construction techniques exceed modern capabilities, then our entire framework for understanding the past must be rebuilt from the foundation up. The conventional model of linear progression from hunter-gatherers to agricultural communities to complex civilizations collapses under the weight of anomalous evidence. Instead, what emerges is a cyclical pattern of rise, achievement, catastrophe, and renewal that has repeated across vast spans of time. Human civilization appears to have reached extraordinary heights multiple times, only to be reduced to primitive conditions by global disasters that erased most traces of advanced achievement. This cyclical model explains anomalies that linear progression cannot accommodate. The sudden appearance of sophisticated knowledge in ancient Egypt becomes comprehensible as inheritance from an earlier cycle of advancement. The global distribution of similar techniques and astronomical understanding reflects preservation efforts by survivors of previous civilizations. The mathematical precision and construction capabilities that seem impossible for Bronze Age cultures represent applications of knowledge accumulated over far longer periods than orthodox history acknowledges. The implications extend to our understanding of human potential itself. If ancient civilizations achieved levels of mathematical, astronomical, and engineering sophistication that rival or exceed modern capabilities, then human consciousness possesses capacities that we have forgotten or suppressed. The builders of the Great Pyramid demonstrated understanding of mathematical relationships, cosmic cycles, and engineering principles that suggest cognitive abilities we have yet to fully recover. This forgotten capacity may relate to different modes of consciousness that ancient cultures developed through practices we now dismiss as primitive or superstitious. The emphasis on meditation, ritual, and altered states of awareness in ancient traditions may have facilitated access to information and insights that purely rational approaches cannot achieve. The precision of ancient astronomical observations, the accuracy of mathematical calculations, and the sophistication of engineering solutions may have emerged from consciousness techniques that integrated intuitive and analytical capabilities in ways modern education has abandoned. The knowledge preservation systems employed by ancient civilizations demonstrate wisdom about information transmission that surpasses modern understanding. Rather than relying solely on written records that could be destroyed by fire, flood, or conquest, ancient builders encoded essential information in multiple formats: mathematical relationships in architectural dimensions, astronomical data in monument alignments, and engineering principles in construction techniques that would endure for millennia. This redundant encoding system reveals sophisticated understanding of how knowledge survives across time. The builders recognized that civilizations rise and fall, that written languages become extinct, and that even the most carefully maintained archives can be lost to catastrophe. By encoding information in stone monuments positioned strategically around the globe, they created knowledge repositories that could survive the collapse of any individual civilization and remain accessible to future cultures capable of decoding their messages. The geographic distribution of these knowledge repositories suggests awareness of global catastrophe patterns and strategic positioning to maximize survival probability. Major monuments are positioned on stable geological formations, at elevations that would survive significant sea level changes, and in geographic regions less vulnerable to specific types of natural disasters. This distribution pattern indicates global perspective and long-term planning that transcends the limitations of individual cultures or civilizations. The mathematical and astronomical knowledge preserved in ancient monuments contains information relevant to understanding cosmic cycles that operate on timescales far exceeding human lifespans. The 26,000-year precessional cycle encoded in numerous ancient sites suggests awareness of cosmic rhythms that affect climate, magnetic fields, and possibly consciousness itself. This knowledge may have enabled ancient civilizations to prepare for cyclical changes that modern science is only beginning to recognize. Recent research into climate cycles, magnetic pole reversals, and solar system dynamics reveals patterns that operate on precisely the timescales encoded in ancient monuments. The possibility that ancient builders possessed comprehensive understanding of these cosmic cycles suggests they may have been attempting to prepare future civilizations for predictable changes that occur every few thousand years. The suppression or dismissal of evidence supporting this alternative timeline may reflect more than academic conservatism or methodological caution. Recognition that human civilization has achieved extraordinary heights multiple times throughout history would challenge fundamental assumptions about progress, development, and the superiority of modern technological civilization. It would suggest that we are not the pinnacle of human achievement but potentially a recovery phase following previous collapse. This recognition could trigger profound shifts in how we approach current global challenges. If previous civilizations achieved sustainable technologies, harmonious social organization, an advanced understanding of natural systems before succumbing to catastrophic change, then their preserved knowledge might offer solutions to problems we assume are unprecedented. The monuments they left behind might contain not just historical information but practical guidance for navigating challenges that arise cyclically in human development. The implications extend to our understanding of consciousness, reality, and humanity's role in the cosmic order. Ancient texts consistently describe contact with non-human intelligences, whether from other dimensions, other planets, or hidden terrestrial realms, that provided guidance and knowledge during crucial periods of development. While mainstream science dismisses these accounts as mythology, the evidence for advanced ancient knowledge suggests such contact may have been real and may continue to influence human development in ways we don't consciously recognize. The possibility that human civilization operates within larger contexts of guidance, instruction, and oversight would revolutionize our understanding of independence, achievement, and destiny. If ancient Egypt and other advanced civilizations developed their capabilities through contact with teachers possessing far greater knowledge, then human progress may be less autonomous and more collaborative than we assume. The encoded messages in ancient monuments may represent not just preservation of past knowledge, but instructions for future development. The mathematical relationships, astronomical alignments, and construction techniques demonstrated in these structures could serve as curriculum for civilizations achieving sufficient analytical capability to decode their information. This suggests ancient builders anticipated that their knowledge would eventually be rediscovered and applied by future cultures capable of understanding and implementing their insights. The current emergence of technologies capable of analyzing ancient monuments with unprecedented precision satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, laser scanning, computer modeling, may represent the approaching moment when this preserved knowledge becomes fully accessible. The timing of these technological developments, coinciding with growing recognition of anomalous evidence, suggests we may be entering a period when the suppressed history of human civilization begins to emerge into public awareness. The question becomes not whether this revision of human history will occur, but how quickly it will unfold and what its consequences will be for modern civilization. The evidence accumulated over decades of suppressed research, anomalous discoveries, and technological analysis has reached critical mass. The paradigm shift from linear to cyclical models of human development appears inevitable. What remains uncertain is whether this transformation will occur through gradual acceptance within existing academic frameworks or through sudden revelation that bypasses institutional resistance. The implications are too profound and the evidence too compelling for continued suppression to remain viable indefinitely. The ancient builders who encoded their knowledge in stone monuments designed their preservation systems to survive exactly this type of institutional resistance and cultural amnesia. Their message, carved in mathematical relationships that transcend language and cultural interpretation, waits in perfect precision for the moment when human consciousness achieves sufficient development to receive and implement the wisdom of previous cycles. That moment may be approaching faster than we imagine, carried forward by the same cyclical forces that the ancient builders understood and prepared for with such extraordinary foresight and dedication. Chapter 11. The Gate Still Waiting. In the pre-dawn darkness beneath the Giza Plateau, where ground-penetrating radar has revealed chambers that remain unopened and tunnels that disappear into unexplored depths, something waits with infinite patience. The ancient builders who encoded their knowledge in stone monuments worldwide created more than repositories of information. They designed gates that would open only when humanity demonstrated the wisdom and readiness necessary to receive what lies beyond. The search for hidden chambers and lost knowledge continues with unprecedented urgency in the 21st century. Private foundations, independent researchers, and even government agencies pursue leads that official archaeology consistently ignores or actively suppresses. Satellite imaging reveals geometric patterns in landscapes worldwide that suggest far more extensive ancient construction than has been acknowledged. Ground-penetrating radar detects void spaces beneath known monuments that could house entire cities, yet permits for exploration are routinely denied, access is restricted, and discoveries that do occur vanish into classified archives. This pattern of restriction extends beyond Egypt to ancient sites worldwide. At Göbekli Tepe, where excavation has revealed only a fraction of the massive complex detected by subsurface surveys, authorities have consistently limited exploration to small sections, while keeping the majority of the site off limits. At Angkor Wat, ground-penetrating radar has identified extensive underground networks, but permits for exploration are rarely granted. The pattern suggests coordinated efforts to control the pace and scope of ancient knowledge recovery. The restrictions may reflect more than academic caution or political sensitivity. Indigenous traditions worldwide preserve accounts of contact with knowledge keepers who have maintained hidden sanctuaries for thousands of years. These beings, described consistently across cultures as tall, luminous, and extraordinarily long-lived, are said to emerge periodically to assess humanity's development and determine readiness for renewed contact. Their criteria for such contact reportedly center not on technological advancement, but on wisdom, spiritual development, and collective consciousness evolution. Recent decades have witnessed increasing reports of encounters with these knowledge keepers in locations associated with ancient monuments. Researchers, spiritual seekers, and even casual visitors to sites like Giza, Machu Picchu, and Stonehenge describe meetings with beings who display intimate knowledge of the site's true purposes and hidden features. These encounters typically involve transmission of information that the recipients find difficult to integrate or communicate using conventional language and concepts. The consistency of these reports, combined with their occurrence at sites where advanced ancient knowledge is most evident, suggests more than psychological projection or wishful thinking. The beings described in these encounters display characteristics that align with ancient texts describing divine teachers and wisdom keepers. Their knowledge of hidden chambers, their understanding of the monument's mathematical and astronomical encoding, and their emphasis on consciousness development as a prerequisite for knowledge transmission all correspond to patterns found in ancient traditions worldwide. The emergence of these encounter reports coincides with technological developments that make comprehensive analysis of ancient monuments possible for the first time. Laser scanning reveals construction precision that exceeds modern capabilities. Chemical analysis identifies materials and techniques that challenge conventional understanding of ancient capabilities. Computer modeling demonstrates mathematical and astronomical relationships that suggest intentional encoding of advanced information. The convergence of evidence from multiple analytical approaches has reached a critical threshold that makes suppression increasingly difficult to maintain. The resistance to acknowledging this evidence may reflect recognition that its implications extend far beyond archaeology or ancient history. If human civilization has achieved extraordinary heights multiple times throughout history, if advanced knowledge has been preserved in monuments worldwide, if contact with non-human teachers has guided human development periodically, then fundamental assumptions about progress, achievement, and humanity's place in the cosmic order require complete revision. Such revision would challenge not only academic orthodoxy but economic, political, and religious systems that depend on current historical narratives for their legitimacy. The tourism industry built around conventional ancient history, the educational systems that teach linear progression models, and the cultural identities based on technological superiority would all face disruption. The stakes involved in maintaining existing paradigms explain the intensity of resistance to paradigm-shifting evidence. Yet the evidence continues to accumulate through channels that bypass institutional control. Independent researchers using satellite imagery identify new sites that display characteristics of advanced ancient construction. Private expeditions using portable ground-penetrating radar map underground complexes at known monuments. Citizen scientists analyze publicly available data to reveal mathematical relationships and astronomical alignments that official archaeology has overlooked or ignored. The democratization of analytical tools and information access makes comprehensive suppression increasingly impractical. Satellites provide imagery that reveals landscape modifications spanning continents. Computer processing power enables complex mathematical analysis by individual researchers. Internet communication allows coordination between investigators worldwide. The knowledge preservation systems created by ancient builders may have been designed to remain accessible precisely through such distributed, decentralized investigation methods. The ancient texts that describe contact with knowledge keepers consistently emphasize that renewed contact depends on collective human consciousness, reaching specific development thresholds. These thresholds are described not in terms of technological capability, but in terms of wisdom, compassion, and understanding of humanity's place in larger cosmic contexts. The texts suggest that advanced knowledge becomes accessible only when its recipients possess sufficient wisdom to use it beneficially rather than destructively. Current global challenges, environmental degradation, social inequality, technological disruption, and existential risks from artificial intelligence may represent precisely the type of developmental crisis that traditionally triggers contact with knowledge keepers. Ancient traditions describe such contact as occurring during periods of transition, when civilizations face challenges that exceed their current capabilities to resolve. The guidance provided during these transition periods allegedly enables quantum leaps in consciousness and capability that allow civilizations to transcend their limitations. The mathematical precision and astronomical sophistication demonstrated in ancient monuments may have been intended not just to preserve information, but to serve as curriculum for consciousness development. The geometric relationships, harmonic proportions, and celestial alignments incorporated in these structures could facilitate altered states of awareness that enable direct access to information that cannot be transmitted through conventional communication methods. Modern research into consciousness and quantum mechanics suggests that information might indeed be accessible through non-local connections that transcend conventional space-time limitations. If ancient monument builders understood these principles and designed their structures to facilitate such access, then the monuments themselves might function as consciousness interfaces rather than simple information repositories. The precision of their mathematical encoding and astronomical alignments could serve to attune visitors' consciousness to frequencies that enable direct knowledge transmission. The increasing reports of anomalous experiences at ancient sites, visions, telepathic communication, and spontaneous knowledge downloads may reflect activation of these consciousness interfaces as humanity approaches readiness for renewed contact. The experiences often involve information about hidden chambers, advanced technologies, and solutions to current global challenges that the recipients find difficult to communicate using conventional language, but that demonstrate remarkable consistency across different individuals and locations. The gates that await opening may be not physical entrances to hidden chambers, but consciousness thresholds that become accessible when human awareness reaches sufficient development. The ancient knowledge preserved in monuments worldwide might be transmitted not through written records or technological artifacts, but through direct consciousness transfer that occurs when recipients achieve proper alignment with the encoding frequencies built into the monuments themselves. This possibility suggests that the search for hidden chambers and lost artifacts, while important, may represent only the preliminary phase of ancient knowledge recovery. The deeper treasures, the complete understanding of consciousness, reality, and humanity's cosmic role, may become accessible only through the development of awareness capabilities that our ancestors possessed, but that modern civilization has forgotten in its focus on external technological development. The ancient builders who created the monuments that surround us may have been not just preserving information for future discovery, but preparing transformation systems that would activate when humanity reached the proper stage of development. The precision of their construction, the scope of their global network, and the sophistication of their knowledge encoding suggest preparation for exactly the type of consciousness evolution that current global circumstances seem to be demanding. The gates still waiting may be opening now, not through archaeological excavation or technological analysis alone, but through the consciousness development of individuals who approach these ancient sites with proper preparation, intention, and understanding of their true purpose. The knowledge preserved for millennia in stone monuments worldwide may be becoming accessible not to institutional archaeology, but to humanity's collective consciousness as it awakens to its true heritage and cosmic destiny. The ancient teachers may still be there, waiting in chambers that exist in dimensions adjacent to our conventional reality, ready to emerge when humanity demonstrates the wisdom and readiness necessary to receive the full inheritance left by previous cycles of civilization. The monuments they left behind serve not just as markers of past achievement, but as beacons calling us toward the profound transformation that awaits beyond the gates we have yet to fully comprehend or courageously approach.